Hello, everyone. This is Political Chit Chat, and I'm your host, Gonzalo Duran. Today's honored guest is activist and advocate Michelle Josephine Alleyne from the Women's Distinguished 9/11. Um, Michelle, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
For the audience that don't know who you are, would you mind giving a brief background of yourself?
Yes, okay. Well, I'm originally born and raised in the Bronx. I graduated from City University of New York, psychology, minor cross-cultural studies, and public administration. I turned around and created an organization for women after my 9/11 assignment at CUNY. I have a variety of wealth of public safety experience. It started off in North Carolina Central University when I was on campus, with a film production company, Tony Brown's, to all the way up until CUNY, Public Safety, Department of Homeless Services, and Park Justice Security. And then I went to a church and started at the Greater Alleyne Cathedral and founded the Distinguished Women of September 11th.
Now, you, as the founder, how did this come about?
Well, it started really, I was focusing more or less while I was at Park Justice Security as a special officer at Park Justice Security. I was focusing on the crisis under the President Obama's administration. It was the land loss that was happening in the United States. There was 4 cases of land loss, right? The Pickford versus Glitman, which was the black farmers. You had the Latino-Mexican land loss, and you had the woman land loss, Vilsalat versus, it was the Vilsalat case. And they had Indian land loss and the Indian land loss. It was 4 cases: woman, black, Mexican, Latino, and Indian land loss. And I was concerned about that because my mother, we've been holding on to our land in the South in North Carolina, right, for a very long time. And we were part of the 2% survivors of the land loss cases. So, and underneath the President Obama administration, he did give $50,000 to the landowners in regards to the land loss that had happened during that time period. And I was in school at the time, finishing off my BA degree at York College. And what happened, well, no, it wasn't York College, at Hostos Community College, excuse me. And it's the AA degree in public administration. And I was on the site of campus at Hostos when I got called. This is my 9/11 story.
No, please go.
Yeah,
Please,
I was
beautiful.
September the 10th of 2001. I was on campus on duty, and I was called to go to the hospital, Einstein, Albert Einstein, because my mother went into ICU. And so what happened was when I went, she was supposed to do the elections the next day. Bronx elections. She was running for office with several other candidates. And she told me when I was there by her side, turn on the TV, and let's see what's going on with the elections. I was really nervous, first about her being in ICU.
Of course, yeah.
And then it was my brother's birthday that day, but then they always said, how many people's birthday was on September 11th. And then, it was, we turned on the TV and breaking news, the towers was falling, and I was like, what's going on? Then I called the job to find out what was going on, what was happening. And they said they needed paid volunteers. They said volunteers, but of course we were paid because we were peace officers hired internally through the City University of New York. And so we, they said they needed some people because some people didn't come in, and it had to do with 199 Chambers, which is BMCC, but at the time they turned into a temporary morgue emergency assistant unit.
So, I mean, and for the audience that may not know, the land loss, that's more like farming, right?
Right. Wait a minute. Right. The Farm Bill, the land loss, right, happened to do with the black farmers and the discrimination. Well, those 4 cases of land loss and the discrimination of land grant opportunities that were made available for them being made available. And there was a gentleman from Lumberton, North Carolina, and his wife, John and Kara Boyd, right? Mr. John Boyd, he turned around and rode his wagon from Virginia to Washington, along with a politician, to protest the land loss in the United States and the lack of land grant opportunities. And what happened was President Obama sought him out and made him president of the National Black Farmers Association. You know, so that crisis was happening before September 11th.
Yep.
You know, and so it was, you know, that was of concern because of my mother, you know, and myself being in school, trying to help her out, you know, and help myself out, of course, getting higher learning, and then help my mother out in the future.
And working at the same time.
And working at the same time, working and going to school at the time. So, you know, what came out of it was a farm bill currently that a lot of people are looking forward to find out how many grants and opportunities and resources that will come out to help farmers and landowners. You know, I personally feel that one of them should be is the students that do the internships at school. They should turn around and do their student exchange on farmers' land. You know what I mean? On to help out with not only getting credits at school, but helping the older population landowners stay on, you know, help on their land.
Is there, I mean, and 'cause this is not my forte, but does New York City, does it have a lot of farmland, or would they have to go outside of New York City?
No, upstate, they have a bunch of farmers
New York
upstate.
has it, okay.
Upstate, they have a lot of farmlands that's also going to benefit from the farm bill. You know, they don't have enough resources. Agribility, it's called agribility. And every state, they adopted, I think it's mostly, I don't know if it's all states, but every state should have an agribility office. Agribility means that, you know, for the farmer who has a disability to stay on their land. It is made for them to stay on their land.
The next generation, if they're not being taught, then what happens to the land? And we don't want all these companies buying them all, you know.
Right.
I mean, they should be owned by, you know, regular citizens that are, you know,
right.
farm workers.
It should go to their generations.
Yeah.
And they haven't done enough research study in the educational system to find out why this is so much land loss. You know, but of course, the rag and why it had to do with the land grant, you know, lack of opportunities that were given to them in the offices and stuff like that. But you know what came out of it? A positive thing. After 9/11, though, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand and Senator Cory Booker created the Justice Bill. All right, and it was focusing on black farmers But of course, if it's focusing on black farmers, it's focusing on all four categories. You know, anybody that has land. You know, to get their land and reclaim their land back. And some of the Indians were able to reclaim their land back. Unfortunately, some people sued because the $50,000 wasn't enough. They wanted their land. They didn't really want the money, but the opportunity for the Justice Bill wasn't there. You know what I mean? So, but now that it is there. And, you know, once it goes up to auction, there's always somebody there to snatch it, and that's what happened. And the National Black Farmers Association has a lot of examples of that.
So now, where is the Distinguished Women of September 11th? Where are we at with that?
Okay. Well, what happened is I started off at the Greater Alleyne Cathedral, at a church I used to go to. I'm currently Buddhist at this time, Nigerian Shoshu, but when I started it, I was at the Greater Alleyne Cathedral. I had started it there, opened up an account with People's Alliance Federal Credit Union, which happened to be at the church at the time, and I opened up a booster campaign to start some kind of fundraising campaign for the organization.
Those are the smaller ones, so you can get to the bigger,
right,
more incorporated.
Right. Once
it's not something that I'm familiar with, but thank you for explaining.
Right, it was called Booster at the time, but now currently it's called Custom Inc. And like they do shirts. You know, so I created a shirt, a logo, and if you pay $20, you can turn around and the $20 go toward the fundraising, and they get enough T-shirts sold, it becomes a full-fledged organization. So I never gave up on that. I even went down to Pembroke, North Carolina, and was working this organization out of a construction, under the banner of a construction company. When I was at the Greater Alleyne, it was underneath the banner umbrella of the Greater Alleyne Cathedral. And I've just been working on it ever since. I still have the Custom Ink fundraiser campaign up and going. And I've just been educating and outreaching under this banner for like over 2 decades now.
Well, we thank you for that because when we come through the anniversaries of 9/11, it's hard to believe that we don't show as much attention as we did in the beginning, and it seems like every year we're waning away from that. I mean, to the point where we hear these stories now, and it's not a sudden thing, but it's been more prominent of individuals not getting their care for the ones that were working on 9/11, which, after 20 years, you would see repercussions of that. So, I mean, you would put it together, but why isn't the funding being, and healthcare being given? Those are questions that we have to ask.
Well, here's the thing. When it first started, the feds, and to this day, is still holding the Zagrota bill. The Zagrota bill is not a federal bill. The post 9/11 bill is a federal bill. The post 9/11 bill is for the military. And it's been playing big brother to the Zagrota bill even to this day. So, but what's happening, it's been contracted out to hospitals and educational resources and maybe private, like renew911health.org, and several organizations all came together and individuals to bring about this, but it's not a full-fledged administration yet. And this is why there's a lot of cons in the program, that needs improved. We need solutions. What solutions we need, because of the fact that the federal government cannot hold the program, but for so long they need to, bring it off to a full-fledged administration. One of the problems is it looks like they're trying to start something from scratch, which would take only God knows how many. No, I don't know if you're military. I don't know how long it took for the military to get Veterans Administration. That's way over my head.
I've never looked at the beginning of it, but I do know that it was Lincoln that started saying we have to take care of our, returning vets and something like that. But that's something I should look into.
And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at the end, he said there were posts everywhere. That was back in 1969.
And we're still not at 100%. I can tell you that for sure. The most recent thing that I can think of is the PACT Act. Okay. So for the veterans that suffered through the burn pits in Iraq, their medical care. I remember the transition. They were doing a clinical trial, or not trials, but interviews in like a makeshift office. I'm like, this is like billions of dollar grant money, for this new whole program. I mean, I think you guys could do a little bit better than just makeshift operation you have. I was surprised that it took quite a bit of time for it to become fully staffed and appropriate facilities and stuff like that. But it shouldn't have been like that. So I can tell you, even the military has its its own problems.
And see, this is what we're trying to avoid with the Zagrota bill. Because I even heard that they even did experiments with some of the officers, and this is what we're trying to avoid. The Zagrota bill is not only in the feds, but the Center of Disease Control is doing a lot of research, and it's putting a heavy load on them. It should not be in the Center of Disease Control, only for its severe cases of, injuries that happened during that time period. Another thing is that when you look at the forms, right, it says, are you a veteran? Now, that came through the Veteran Administration. Now, the next box says chronic illness. It doesn't say, are you a veteran or a Zagrota bill, or a Zagrota bill responder. They don't have nothing on the health forms that say that. So if you're not a veteran, then you would have to check off. There's nothing to check off. You know what I mean? And so those checkoffs of something of this box that is not even there is going. This is a big problem here. the officers are now, because it's in the Center of Disease Control, is saying that the officers have to report to the Department of Mental Hygiene, according to the Voices of Resilience. Staff, you know what I mean? They have to go into the Department of Mental Hygiene automatically. And this is because
So
they don't
more bureaucratic.
yeah, book. Yes,
Bureaucrats
and
and
that
stuff like
means you're leading them into a mental health umbrella, which they may not need. You know what I mean? It doesn't concentrate on the other half of America. You know what I mean? Because the terms like World Trade Center, chronic, and stuff like that is victim. You know, why would you call a military officer or a uniform officer a victim off the back? Then it has a checkbox for victim. Are you kidding me? You're either a survivor or you're a hero in uniform. You're
That's
not
a
a
beautiful way to-
victim
that's
when
a
you're
beautiful way to
representing
put it,
your
like
own
that.
country. And so, you know, of course they have civilians in there. You know what I mean? They have civilians. But the civilians, you know, they may see victim as because, you know, let's put it this way, as a uniformed personnel, when you're on a beat, right, and somebody gets a robbery or they got attacked or injured, we would send them to the VCF fund. That was the only thing that was available, the VCF fund. I wanted this information to go into the college university circuit. And while I've been, for the past 25 years, I've been focusing on getting this into the college circuit so we could do it on a higher intellectual level. You know what I mean?
Just
Of
just so that
communications.
the people that want to participate, help you, maybe contribute to what you've been talking about, how would they reach you?
Okay, my number is 917-568-9211. I've been blogging on meta.com with Distinguished Women of September 11th. You know, ever since I've been pulled out through the Teamsters Local 237. I'm pretty active. I usually show certain circuits where I am participating in and
Yeah,
stuff.
we've crossed paths quite a bit,
Right.
you know, over the years. Now, where do you see the organization growing to once it's established?
Oh, it's a need because, see, there's a national registry, and the City University of New York created their own. So how many other departments separated from the national, which is held by the feds, and created their own registry? You understand? But regardless, all registries under the special master should be ready available for organizations to make phone calls, surveys, outreach if possible. COVID has when they remember when they had all them people out there knocking on doors
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
you know, they can use some of them workers, right, to help with the national registry and the local registries. The memo is not getting out internally through internal programs, labor force programs within the department enough. FDNY and NYPD and of course the military is on the forefront of informing their people about what's happening because they pretty much lost mostly the most. But then you have MTA just did a public statement at Voices of Resilience. They said their members, a written statement, he stood up and said that their members are not getting into the program fast enough. And there's been press conferences saying that their people are losing their houses, losing their financial banking account systems, you know, to their accounts, you know, while this is going on. Now, there was a directory, right, that had all the people that wound up getting the funding, organizations that wound up getting the funding so that they can, I think the last time it was updated was 2010. You know, if you go to Distinguished Women of September 11th, up on top, I have a bunch of important information numbers, not only for the farming situation, but also with September 11th and the World Trade Center Occupational Health Center. A lot of hospitals have been added on, not only nationally, but and renew911health.org has all the maps and stats of where everybody went since 9/11. They are keeping a serious statistical data on from the beginning of the Zagota bill to current.
Now, you mentioned a website, right?
Renew911health.org.
So in that website, you have the resources and the information so that people can
Okay, well, that's Distinguished Woman of September 11th. I have numbers and stuff, but if you want a college student wants to do a serious report on the beginnings of the Zagrota Bill under the President Barack Obama's administration, he signed it January 2nd, 2011. When the Zagrota Bill came out, 2010, it was signed. And so they can go to renew911health.org and get all the maps, stats, bar graphs, politicians, and everything.
And we're trying to get the attention of the youth so they can understand this is things that we need to keep track of because, once again, we're hitting over 20 years and we're seeing the victims at a time frame where, disease and other problems are coming up, and how do we take care of them?
Well, see, why reinvent the wheel? You're not going to be able, with all these different organizations, and colleges and hospitals doing their part, individually to create administration. There's an organization called Local 1199. They're a national healthcare organization. They're constantly on the forefront trying to get, contracts for their healthcare professionals. They're knowledgeable. They know how to handle paperwork, paper push. You know what I mean? So regardless of any organization that you're a part of, business, area workers, students, if you go through and they do the training, they're doing the training. At renew911health.org, you could probably find out how to get additional training on how to help process this paperwork, that's in the World Trade Center Occupational Health Center. But because the social work department is not fully equipped to handle the paperwork from various different departments. You know what I mean? But a Local 1199 has enough experience to do it, and they national. They all the way up in Andironics Mountains. They everywhere. So why turn around and wait? Turn a wheel into a square peg, trying to create something from start. When the post 9/11 bill cannot, that would be a wonderful thing. If the post 9/11 bill could extend under the post 9/11 bill, their programs, their resources to the Zagrota bill in a subsection for uniformed personnel only. I'm talking about survivors. I'm military families. So, even as military families, we're not, and in fact, I don't know what, but they had to create a lot of things has happened, because we were landowners from the beginning. We already had we're in a different class, a specialized class. So it was very important to turn around and make sure that certain things. Now, there's somebody working on but they need to be more transparent. These Black Liberty patches came out. I had a detail from birthrighted, into land ownership. And because I was very transparent, like God rest his soul, Colin Powell said, he said, tell everybody you can about what you're going through, Condoleezza Rice and everything. So I made sure that I, told everybody what was going on, that we went in the NPR booth and with my mother and told them that we had land and we're survivors of the land loss cases, and that was, before September 11th.
And I will give you credit because, every place that I've gone and that we crossed paths, once again, you are always making an opportunity or trying to get the opportunity to make sure that you can spread the word. And if anybody that wants for you to speak, maybe go into more details of the work that you're doing, the programs that you're partnering with, can you give them your information one more time?
Yeah, okay. My site is on meta.com, Facebook, formerly known as Facebook, Distinguished Woman September 11th. My number is 917-568-9211. There's several organizations like Tuesday's Children, Responder Alliance, Feel the Music, Voices of Resilience. Now, Voices of Resilience, which you'll see on the website too, they're coming up with another, every year, that Downtown Marriott, that every year, right before the Labor Day parade, right? They have a informational seminar on where we're at now. You know, the educational circuit needs to really get in there, and not just MTA, but several other departments, ACS, whatever other uniform personnel that was down there needs to come down there at Voices of Resilience, downtown, to represent their department. I've been there since day one, representing CUNY. But what happened is the first book, the Always Remember book that they have, not too many survivors is in there, and my picture's in there with another lady from the Pentagon. But there was a St. Helena's student. I used to go to St. Helena's, when I was a grade school. So there was another St. Helena's student in there, and in the same classroom, as a matter of fact, but he had passed away during time at 9/11 too. His name was John Gallagher. And so you may find somebody you know in there in some form of affiliation, and that was their first Always Remember book. So, I took this very seriously. I had to, because I wanted to know where we was going. I didn't want to be, black farm land went from 40% to 2%. That's almost a disaster.
Yes, it is.
And the Indians, they lost a lot of land too, but a lot of them was able to reclaim their land with the Justice Bill. You know what I mean? And North Carolina has a land loss prevention project, which needs to be advertised a little bit more and funded, so God forbid anything else happens, because we're still in a pandemic.
Yes, and they can get that on the sites that you mentioned.
Yes.
And for those, thank you for being on with us today on Political Chit Chat. For those that would like to be on the show, feel free to email me at Gonzalo Duran, nyc@gmail.com. If you'd like to get to know me better, feel free to check out all my social media at Gonzalo Duran, NYC. Michelle, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I hope that we can get some more attention on your causes. For those that would like to reach out to Michelle, once again, she gave her information, but if you contact us, we'll be happy to put you in contact with her as well. And until then, and as always, God bless you and God bless America.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. This is Political Chit Chat, and I'm your host, Gonzalo Duran. I look forward to talking to you about local and global politics with local politicians, activists, and community leaders. Check us out on Manhattan Neighborhood Network on Tuesdays at 8:30 on the community channels. If you'd like to be a guest, feel free to email me at gonzaloduran@nyc@gmail.com. If you'd like to get to know me better, feel free to check out my social media at Gonzalo Duran NYC. Until then, and as always, God bless you and God bless America.